500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck. And upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die.
The Phantom,
the ghost who walks.
The Phantom,
enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't mind the Phantom. He finds you.
G'day everybody, and for those who have come in late, you're listening to Expand the Phantom podcast. My name is Jermaine, and tonight I am joined by Steve. No, must be a special guest. But before we get there, Dan, how are you, mate?
G'day, Jermaine. I'm pleased to be here. Still not afflicted with the curse of Stephen, which somehow means that he can never join us if we're talking to someone special.
Oh, well, that's it. So, seeing we've got someone special, we might as well get straight into him. This person is fellow Queenslander, and he's an Australian artist, and we're starting to see a bit of his work and a bit of his taste for Phantom stories as well, which I'm sure has a lot of people interested. But let's interview him without teasing too much more people. So, Shane Foley, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Pretty good, thank you. Do you want to just give out a quick shout out to Steve, just to rub it in a little bit more?
Who's talking to Steve? Me? Hello, Steve. Sorry you can't be here.
Yeah, and that's all he gets. He doesn't turn up to these things.
Is he the argumentative guy? Is that why you're picking out?
No, he's actually generally the peacemaker between the two of us. So.
Oh, really?
This could go anywhere as a result.
Is he the one who keeps the peace between the Forkists and the blokes, people who like the European stuff?
That's exactly right.
Maybe he should be here. Can I hang up now?
No, well, that's your job tonight now, is to keep the peace. That's why we've got you on board.
No. Well, I often get called Steve instead of Shane, so I'll be Steve. That happens a lot.
Awesome. So, Steve, I mean Shane.
Yeah, that's me. I'll answer to both.
Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself? Your age or approximate age, if you don't want to tell us exact age, your background, if you've done any studies, what you do for a day job, and stuff like that, and your love for the art, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not a young guy. I'm not quite as old as Glenn Ford, but I'm getting there. And I'm actually 60. I don't mind telling people that. I'm actually 60, and my day job is as a patient transport officer in the ambulance. Oh. I was a paramedic for 16 years, and now I step back from that and do pre-booked work, taking people from to and fro. So that's my day job. And I've been doing that for 26 years now, which is pretty, I suppose you could say that's my career.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a cartoonist, though, and it's never quite worked. I probably should have moved to America or somewhere when I was a young guy and sidled up next to somebody, but I didn't have the courage to do that and started a family too quickly, and so you just can't do that sort of thing. So I've always done artwork, comic-y stuff, and advertising on the side. I've submitted to Marvel, mainly Marvel, many times, had some pretty good responses to my work, but because I wasn't there, nothing's ever happened. Do you remember, I don't know if you guys followed Marvel stuff, but did you know that they put out, back in Jim Shooter's time, they put out a big tryout book? Have you heard of that? Great big thing. It was a story, Spider-Man story that was half done. And you could pencil a bit, or you could script a bit, or colour a bit. Anyway, Marvel put that out that'd be the mid-'80s, so we're going back. And I submitted stuff in that, and evidently they had, got to try and remember now, 3,000 entries or something.
Yeah.
And something like that, or 1,500 entries, some huge figure. And they chose 30 people they wanted to keep in touch with, and I was one of them.
Oh.
And it never went anywhere after that. I tried and I tried and I tried. I've heard even the winner of the penciling section, he had to actually personally approach Jim Shooter to get anywhere, and they said, "Oh, yeah, that's right, we meant to do this." All the politics at Marvel, and that stopped it. So I won that award, but it never went anywhere, and that's when I was a Marvel guy. My actual comic reading stuff begins with the Phantom. I started with the Phantom when I was 7. First comic I ever saw, and I absolutely loved it. And actually, thanks, because of the stuff on the net now, I've actually gone back and tracked the actual issues that I started with, and I found my memory is spot on with what I had. I still remember in a caravan when I've worked out I was 7. I had to work this back from when these issues were published. But when I was 7, I remember finding a Phantom comic under a seat in a caravan. You know, old caravans used to have to lift the front seat, one of the seats, and you could hide stuff in there. And I remember getting a Phantom, and I remember reading it, and it's like a light bulb went off in my head. I just love this stuff from the word go. And my memory was that on the front there was the Phantom holding a guy over an ant's nest or something, you know, like he threatens him like that. And I remember that inside I read it, and I remember being confused because I knew the Phantom had this dog, and his name was Devil, and at one point Devil was in a cage, and all the natives were saying, "Taboo, taboo," and I remember thinking, what are they calling him Taboo for? His name's Devil. So here we have a comic teaching comprehension and stuff like that, you know. And I remembered the cover, and I've gone back using Grand Comics database and the issues things that Jim Shepard released, you know, Barry Stubblesville's Histories probably, and found the issue, and one with the Phantom holding this guy. It's not over an ant's nest, but it is turning guy up just the same, and it's got that Devil story in it. So my memory after 30-something, 40 years was right.
Oh, wow.
So which issue number was
That's where it started. 225.
Right.
225.
That's
220. It wasn't brand new, but I know that after that, because I loved it so much, my dad decided he'd bring Phantoms home every second Friday. And the first one we had brand new was 286. That was the Thuggies Part 1.
Wow.
And, and I remember that too, and I've looked it up on the thing, and yep, that's exactly right. The number's right, the story's right.
Do you still have those comics, importantly?
No. I have reprints of them. No.
Yeah, sure.
I got rid of everything in 1979, got rid of all my comics, the whole lot.
Oh.
And then I started again a few years later, yeah.
Was that was that a deliberate choice that you made to sort of wipe the slate clean, or was that forced upon you somehow?
No, it was sort of my choice. I was a bit of a collecting bug. I was mainly interested in Marvel stuff at that stage. I still liked the Phantom a lot, but because there's so many of the reprint issues and all that, I had old ones. I got rid of them. But it was actually at the time, it was a religious decision because I sort of was taking Christianity very, very seriously, still do. And at the time, I really felt that comic collecting was like an addiction, and it was. So I got rid of the lot and swore it all off for a good number of years until things settled, and I thought, well, we can come back here, and it worked. And that's when I came back, to reading, and I've always drawn that way. But it took about 4 or 5 years where I wasn't doing anything, and it wasn't until Jim Shepard started releasing, like the Phantom Goes to War, that great big one where he put everything back, that I actually started reading Phantoms again, and so there you go.
Right.
So wow.
Is that enough history?
Yeah, no,
it's
good.
amazing.
So did you study art?
I did. Many years ago, I did a correspondence art course. There used to be things called ICS correspondence schools.
Yep.
And I did that all by mail. And I got what is called a diploma of commercial art out of it. But I really didn't like them, because every time I'd send something in, they'd send it back and say, "Great work." And I say, "Don't tell me it's great. Tell me I can get better." So basically, I've got that bit of paper. I don't think it's worth much. My art has been just through drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing and copying, and then doing my own. And and I would say my main influences would be Jack Kirby and then John Buscema. I just love what those guys do. And there's bits of others, like Cy Barry at his best, and Ray Moore at their best. Yeah, and even some of the Semic guys and the Egmont guys, they're just brilliant. So, artists take everything from bits and pieces from everyone. So, but yeah, it's basically just through drawing every day, all the time. Yeah.
So you just sort of, if there's a bit of paper around or a napkin, you're going to pick up a pencil and start sketching or doodling?
Oh, absolutely. I have got folders and folders and folders of stuff here, and I go through and say, gee, did I draw that? And you put it away, and yeah, it's been going for years. I can't, even when I'm outside, I tell people, see that street down there? I see that in terms of perspective, you're looking down there, and they go, yo, what? And I look at a tree, and you see it in terms of black and white. How would you shadow that? How would you do it? And people look at you like you're nuts, but I think every artist does that to one degree or another, and non-artists probably don't understand it.
My stepdad's an artist, and he's saying it's like he just gets itchy fingers. So whenever we go to a restaurant, we try and choose the restaurants which put the butcher's paper over the table with a little box of crayons, just so he can keep himself occupied for a little bit. Yeah.
No, I just love that. Yeah,
so, Shane,
and it's black and white for me. I just love it. Go on.
Oh no. I was just going to ask if you had ever had any of your other work published, or where we might have seen that. You said some advertising and some other little work.
Advertising. Not much I can think of that might be more than local. As far as my comic work goes, back when Australia had a bit of a comic industry way back in the early 90s, I did did some work. I drew a Dark Nebula story or two. The character Dark Nebula. He was with the Southern Cross Comics, Southern Aurora, around the time that the Southern Squadron was around, and Glenn Lumsden and Dave DeBreeze were working together and that sort of thing. I started working with Tad. How do you say his name? Pederzakoski? I never get it right. And was going to do Dark Nebula with him. But I did a couple of little ones for Don Ticchio in his book, Southern Aurora Presents. There was a couple of mine in there. He did a book called Australian War Stories, and I had a short story in the back of that. And then there was not a lot for a long time. In 2004, 2005, 2006, I had a regular comic strip running in Crash magazine, Crash with a K, the little digest size thing for kids. I had a little 4 pages a month in there, which I wrote, drew, and had a mate colour. And that ended up being over 100 pages worth of stuff before they decided they couldn't pay me anymore. And there's a little like Lord of the Ringsy type thing. I really enjoyed doing that. Had a whole thing set up, and had far more plots we ever got done. But yeah, and it ended up being about 120 pages, I think, in all. Did a whole story arc, and then we were heading off into the second story, and they had to pull the pin on it. And so unless you read that little book, you probably haven't seen anything on. There's probably something else. My memory's probably pretty poor on this. I don't know.
And had you been submitting ideas or approaching Frew at any time through that period? You mentioned Jim Shepard sort of brought you back in as a reader. Did you try and get in touch with him as an artist at that time, or?
Yes, I did. I think, was it you I sent this to, Jermaine? I sent a letter to you, and you said it was too nasty to publish. Was that you? Who was it?
Yeah, I think so. For those
it was you. At one stage, okay. I think when I saw the first Keith Chatto one come out, I must have been looking at them at the time. Was that before or after the 1,000th issue?
That would have been after, I think.
Before. No, it was.
Well, maybe because there were 3 or 4 of them, weren't there? So at one stage, when I saw that they were considering doing Australian ones, I did up a 3-page sample and sent it to Jim Shepard, and he answered nicely. And I realised, when I'd done the Phantom fight, hitting someone, I'd left the rings off his finger, which is a big mistake.
Yep.
And but he gave a reasonable sort of answer, sort of saying, well, look, Australia really can't afford this, blah blah blah. And but there was enough positive in it that I did a second submission, which I think is a lot better than the first one. But his answer was quite terse the second time. It's almost like, look, don't bother me, we can't do this. And I think I think I sent that letter to you. Was it you, Jermaine? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
So when you first
said
when you did your first cover, we did a quick short interview.
That's and that's on the Chronicle,
website.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't put the letter on the article though, Jermaine. I don't remember.
No, there was a reason.
No,
for that,
you were saying you were going to. You reckon it probably painted Jim in a bit of a bad light because maybe he's wrote it on a bad day, but it seemed harsher to you than it did to me. I just thought it was just a straight business thing. He said you can't afford it, and I understand. So that was fine. So I did then. That was I never did anything more. I don't think. Yes, there was something in between. That was Jim's time, but then in 2003, I did a few Panther covers for Kevin Patrick when he was reprinting the Phantom. Only one ever got actually published because he decided it was too hard, and I think that one had really limited distribution. But he was really keen at that stage to try and get Jim Shepard to reactivate the Giantsize Phantom. And he got me to do a couple of covers for him, and one of those covers was on the back of Giantsize number 2, I think, because I sent them as samples to Glenn. Yeah, the back of Giantsize 2 has a drawing of me, and it's dated 2004.
Yes.
And that's when I did that old cover, and that was like a sample thing that Kevin wanted. And there's also one I did of Catman, and I think Glenn's got that. And plans, well, if it's appropriate sometime, I'll put that on somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was through Kevin Patrick.
It won't surprise listeners to hear that Jermaine was right in terms of Keith Shadow covers. They started with issue 945, and his last one was issue 1016. So mostly before the 1000th issue.
So just say that again, Dan. I was right.
No need to do that, mate. It's on the record, and anyone who wants to go and edit that in.
So why did you send it to Glenn? Was it because he was trying to do a Giantsize and he was trying to talk to Jim about it, and you thought that was a better option on the
No. I only sent it to Jim. I only sent it to Glenn the last couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I had these things done for Kevin, and I don't know how far Kevin got with Jim. I think Jim might have just said no way, and it stopped there. Yeah. And I just had them in a folder here. And then later, when it must have been when I heard about Glenn getting Giantsize going, or when they wanted colouring. But see, I mean, my memory's a bit odd here because when you've asked have I tried anything before, do you remember in one of the, I think it was the Christmas one a little while back, there was a colouring competition.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was for that was for the 80th birthday.
80th. Yeah, and that was one of my old drawings that was used as it. So I must have submitted that to given that to Glenn as well. But see, that's based on an old Jim Shepard issue. So what did I try again? Oh, I can't remember now.
Actually,
maybe I sent him something again.
It looks familiar as I think it's the Cat Goddess, which is a
it is. Yeah.
Which is a old Egmont story.
I would have had that issue because that issue had in it reprinted the one of my old favourite Wilson McCoy stories where Diana's auntie tries to get her married off and they get on with this rich playboy on a boat.
Oh, the matchmaker.
And the matchmaker, the matchmaker was in it. That's probably why I would have bought it. See, after I saw the Phantom Goes to War, I bought every issue that either had a Raymore story or a Wilson McCoy story or the early Cybaris, because that's what I was really interested in. And I wasn't interested in the other stuff at that stage. So I would have had that one because of the matchmaker. And I did do, some covers for that. So that I must have submitted again in there and I've forgotten all about it.
Well, there you go. If it helps refresh your memory, that's the colouring competition from Frew 1763, which was the 80th anniversary special. And in your signature,
Yep.
Your signature on it has got the SF, but then 97, so it must have been 1997 that you drew it, and then 16, which was when you, I guess, updated it and submitted it again.
So Sorry.
I think at that stage Glenn was asking for things he could use as colourings, I think, and I've pulled that one out, and and I remember enlarging the background because it was drawn as a faux cover, so it would have had space at the top for the logo.
Yep.
So I put all this stuff in just in case they didn't want the logo, and so I must have submitted in '97 as well. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even got a reply. I don't think I've got one.
So. That issue was issue 1185, which is from '97, and I had Bastus the Cat Goddess, the Matchmaker, and
very yellow cover, isn't it? Very yellow.
Mystery of Kula Ku.
I did a cover for each of the three drawings. I've done a very Wilson McCoyish one, and I did one of that Queen with the Phantom on his knees, in a very Cy Barry style, and then one for the cover. Yeah, so I must have said, I can do these. Yes, I would have them somewhere. Yeah.
Is it possible to get a bit of a preview?
Hey?
Do you think we can maybe get a scan to include with the podcast?
Sure.
Awesome.
So you want scans of, hang on, I'll write myself a note. Scan 1997 covers. So you want the two that you haven't seen yet?
Yeah,
they're virtually
if it's
copies.
possible.
That's easy. They're virtually copies of panels, like I just said, I can do them for you. Because I always disliked the way Jim and that would just photocopy a panel and blow it up, and often the perspective was all over the place or it was a bit muddy, and I thought, oh, come on, you can light box it and do it better. And of course, that's how I started. That's how I sent something to Dudley, and it went from there. Yeah.
So
Easiest thing.
you've mentioned a bunch of names there, like Glenn Lumsden and Dave DeVries and obviously Glenn Ford. So you must have been in and around the comic industry all through that time. How did you get to know all those guys?
I met most of them at whatever comic convention it was in 1992 in Sydney. And I went down there because of my association with Tad, who'd created Dark Nebula, and he was involved with them in Cyclone. And at that stage, Dark Nebula had spun off into his own comic, and I had done an entire 30-page story with him, but it wasn't published yet, and it still hasn't been. But I went down to join him, and I met a lot of them. Michael Duckowitz was there as well. Remember him? I loved his brushwork and stuff. And I remember Dave DeVries and Glenn also... why does the memory do this? Lives in Tasmania, make the flash domingo. Why is my memory gone? Did one?
Is it Gary Challoner?
Gary Challoner, sorry, Gary. Sort of met a lot of those guys then, and others. I can hardly remember much about it, but I was sort of in the circle, but I didn't ever talk to them really. It was mainly through Tad, and there was all this stuff about what we might do and what might happen, and very rarely sort of did, and I didn't know if that, money was the issue and they weren't doing it, or because I never could meet up with them. I was always in Queensland, right up here in Bundaberg at that time, and I can't get to Sydney much. So there's always talk about stuff. But Tad always liked me doing stuff for him, and then he dropped out for a while, and then it's been all over the place, So there you go. Yeah.
But you must have formed some sort of connection then with Glenn Ford in particular, I guess, in terms of being someone who you then sent artwork for and got excited about when he took over Frew.
Well, yeah, Glenn got in touch. I think, I first sent my first cover idea to Dudley, and I've got it sitting in front of me. That was in July 2015, and I sent him a different version of it's a cover where it was just a little panel blown up, and it was the one of there was an African American lady there with a scarf on her head or something and a baby, and the Phantom, as Mr. Walker, is in the doorway. Yeah. And I should be able to find the number. I thought I'd written it, but I don't. And I just did a new version of that. The what?
Which Doctor's Daughter, I think the story was.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Medicine Man's Daughter, I think it was.
Medicine Man.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I saw that one, and that was obviously a little panel just blown up. And I virtually virtually just lightboxed the layout, and I actually changed the Phantom figure to his costume rather than his hat and coat. And I said, look, I can do this for you. And he gave me a nice letter back. He really did. But I think at that stage, they just weren't paying or something. And, and that was in July 2015. It wasn't until April 2016 I got a phone call from him, and that's when I had no idea at that stage that Glenn and Renee and that had taken over. I knew Jim Shepherd had died. I remember seeing that on the front of one of them, and I knew Judith Shepherd had taken over, but then I didn't do anything more after that. And it wasn't until all that happened and I started doing new covers that suddenly I was in touch with Glenn, and Glenn was talking to me, and I sort of thought, I don't know who's the editor here, Dudley or Glenn. Who am I talking to? I don't know what's going on, because each one seemed to be, one was okaying what the other one had said, and I thought, oh. And when I would write to them, I wouldn't know which one to do. And it wasn't until Giantsize Phantom started, and I started doing the Sir Falcon stuff, that I sort of had a lot more to do with Glenn. So that's his baby, I suppose. So,
so you did 4
and
covers. Oh, sorry, you gone?
Yes, no. I finished.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so you have done 4 covers. So 1754, sort of halfway through 2016 was the first one, then 1757, 1768, and 1788. So they all came out within probably 10 months or so of each other. None of those, I don't think, would have got the lightbox treatment. They look like new concept art from yourself.
Oh, they are, totally, yeah. When I did the lightbox stuff for that sample to Dudley, I just presumed they knew the layout they wanted, and I just sort of thought, look, I'm willing to work with whatever you want. Sure. So I just sent that version. Since then, what they do is they send me a story and say, what do you want to do? And usually there is no panel that I want to lift, and I've decided I don't really want to lightbox other people's stuff unless it's really necessary, unless they want it. Yeah. So I do my own versions of them. None of those are, no. But
I thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way that the new Frew crew have moved, because you're right, that used to be the standard MO for Jim was, as you said, like enlarging a panel, or if we were lucky, getting someone else to enlarge the panel in a new style. But taking it in a new direction now, where artists get to interpret something for themselves, I think makes for a far more exciting cover.
Yes.
Oh, I think it's brilliant what they're doing. I'm really glad they've decided to put the money into it, and I hope it's worth their while, because I think, looking at it, it's really, really good. I'm very happy with it. The only other ones I really liked were in the real old days when someone would redo a Cy Barry cover. The early Cy Barrys had some brilliant covers, and someone would obviously redraw them. They weren't just panels blown up. Well, they didn't have photocopies, and it was too expensive to do that. So, but they were really nice, but often even then not associated with the story inside. So I think the way Dudley and Glenn have taken it now works well for me, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a much better looking product. I really like it. Yeah.
Well, as a consumer, we totally agree.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I like the way they do. See, I was going to say too, how some of the modern covers have a Phantom figure that's very much more in line with modern ways of drawing things. With the deep digital colour and the Phantom looking like he's raging mad. You have those one thing, then the next cover you have a much more traditional approach where the Phantom's quite stoic.
And that's probably where you fit in.
Very different. Well, at one stage when I was meeting with Dudley and Glenn, I actually asked them, do you want me to try and modernise it a bit? I don't know if I can, but I could try. And they said, no. And I presume like their fan base and their customer base is still a huge amount of traditional type people. So they want some in there, I presume, who can do that. So I guess that's where I fit in, and I'm glad I don't have to try and work against my natural sensibilities.
Yeah, and I think that shows good leadership and good business sense, in the sense that they've got the older, more traditional style, and then they've got and then they've got people even like a Jeremy McPherson that does looks, his style's very reminiscent of like the Sparta, and then you've got Jamie Johnson, who's the more modern, bulkier Phantom and stuff like that. So I think it's good that they choose different artists with different styles and
getting that mix and balance.
Yeah, I like just a good drawing, really. I'm not stuck in a box like some Focus, but but it's good.
Yeah,
there's a little drive.
Well, I hope it works for them. I'd really like to know if they can tell through sales if one style is preferred above another, and I guess if they find that out, they'll probably go that way. But
well, that's a good little opportunity.
Everyone says,
that's a good little opportunity for us to plug the Best of 2017 cover competition that we're currently running through the website. People can go to ChronicleChamber.com and vote for their favourite Frew cover of 2017. Frew is actually running that in conjunction with us and advertised it in the latest Giantsize. And it's a good way of finding out which covers people are going for.
I'm looking forward to seeing what wins.
Well, you don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of covers in the race in 2017, Shane. You've most of your
I get the I had 3 in 16 and only 1 in 17, and I presume that's probably because I was doing insides and they because I've gotten quite a bit on the inside. But I've got one coming up.
Oh, you do have one coming up?
Yeah, because I asked for it. I wrote to Dudley and I said, hey, I'm going to be back at Supernova this year. And last year, like I was there, but on my left was Paul Mason, who had Kid Phantom brand new, and on my right were the guys who'd done Phantom by Gaslight, and they've got all this stuff in bright colour in front of them, and here's me, I had nothing, no cover. I had the inside of Giantsize Phantom number 1, but that's about it.
Yep.
And so I thought, can I have a cover on sale about the time? So I've got something
there you go.
something to sign as well. And now that Glenn's also very kindly offered to let me. I'm part of the Jam cover this year as well, so I'll have 2 things there.
That's good.
Which is good, yeah.
Oh, so
there you go.
There'll be a bit of a new team for the Jam cover because they've used the same 5 artists both years now. So that's good to see that there's going to be a bit of fresh blood come into that.
Yeah, well, it might be 6, maybe the same 5 plus 1 more. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, nice.
So you've definitely got a cover coming out before June then.
Dudley promised me that. I asked him about it, and I fully expected with his busy workload to forget about it. And within a couple of weeks, he said, here's one. I don't need it till May. So, April. It's April, actually.
Yep.
And I've done it. It's all done. I'm just waiting to see if a good mate of mine is in a position to colour it or not, or whether I have to colour it.
Cool.
I reckon my own colouring lets me down a bit, but that's just my opinion. I want to get him to do it if possible, and we'll see. It's all done.
Do you do all that stuff? And I want to come back to the inside stories later. But do you do colouring digitally? Do you draw digitally, or is it all old school pen and paper?
The drawing is there's all hard copy here.
Yeah.
I do it with brushes and ink and pen on proper art paper. I scan it and then colour it in Photoshop.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. But the originals are here and I'm hanging on to them at the moment.
So you've just saved yourself answering probably about 20 people messaging you asking if they could buy a cover then.
Yeah, well, I've recreated them, most of the early ones, a couple of times and sold them off, but
Oh, there you've just got 20 back again then.
Cool. So what sort of size do you work with when you're doing your covers? I assume you're not. Do you do it immediately A4 size, or do you do larger and shrink it down?
No. Yeah, I do it the size comics have been done for years now. But you'd say to A3.
Right.
Yep.
I do it A3 and then scan it, reduce it on a good photocopy down to A4, so I don't have a big scanner, so I go and get a decent photocopy and scan and put it down to A4, scan that and colour that. So that's what gets printed off. But I draw it A3.
Yeah. Okay.
Time and a half. Yeah. And all the inside pages done the same way.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So do you have before we move on to your inside stuff, do you have a favourite cover that you've produced so far?
Yeah, the new one. The one you haven't seen
yet.
Of course.
We haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I don't
is
know. I
that
had really
question.
good reaction. I had really good reaction to the first one with the snakes on it.
Yep.
So I liked them all. Oh,
Yeah.
there was one, the one with the alligator, the second one I did. I really liked the design of that. I was very disappointed in myself for forgetting that Kiwi covers colour the Phantom brown, because that means you had a brown alligator next to a brown Phantom. I was like, oh no.
Just one more reason why the Kiwi covers have died a natural death.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
my
and
favourite as well.
You like that one?
Yeah, I like that one.
The last one, I liked the front. I wasn't very fussed on the back cover of my last one. Especially the colouring. I think I as soon as that was published, I thought, I know I should have done that. I liked the Phantom with his hood and the skull, but I wasn't fussed on the gunman at the bottom. But anyway, that's how it goes.
We're often our own harshest critics, aren't we? So I thought that was pretty good.
Good. I'm glad.
I like
Actually, for a local art show here, they asked me to do Phantom covers, and I redid that one, but totally changed the bottom of it.
Right.
So you got the hooded Phantom in the sky, in the air, with next to the skull, but there's a Phantom figure and I think it was a palace on a hill or something below it. So got rid of the gunman. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Alrighty-o. So
So-
move on to your Giantsize.
Well, no, but sorry, Jerm, to interrupt, but the art show, we put a post up about that at the time. So how much you submitted a few items for that? Was that just showcasing local Bundaberg artists? Was it?
Yeah, it's down a little place called Woodgate, and every year they have an exhibition called Woodgate Arts in spring, and they just asked me if I'd put in Phantom covers, and I thought, oh, okay. So what I did was I reproduced the first one I did, the snake one, the one with the alligator, and the back cover of the alligator one just had the Phantom, standing there, arms crossed, looking out to sea. But I changed the back. I just made it the skull cave and everything there. And that version, that one went into the colouring book. The colouring book. There's a picture one in there by me where the figure's the same as the back of that cover, but there's Devil and the skull cave, and that. And I sold all three at that thing. That was pretty wonderful. And
at the art show.
And at the art show, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this year I did it again. I put three in again, sold two of them. So there you go.
Wow. Very good.
Yeah.
I'll have to pop
I
up to
think I
Bundaberg.
know the one. I think I know who brought one of those.
Does he live in
Oh,
Rockhampton?
really?
No, the other place nearby.
Okay.
Further
Maribor.
north. his friend.
Yeah, Maribor.
yeah, that's
In
it.
Maribor, yes, I've seen his collection. Oh,
have you?
what? Look at all this stuff. Yes. Yeah, he got me to do if it was something saying, he got me to do a commission as well, totally different one. And, I don't think he bought one of them, no.
Oh, it might have been someone.
Unless we're talking about somebody else.
No, we're talking about the same person, but it might be the commission that he got you to do.
Yeah, he got the commission. It was pretty amazing. He's saying, he wants my commission. Here he is. He's got originals of this guy and that guy and all these old stuff by Wilson McCoy and Cy Barry, and can tell me the different sizes they're doing. And every Phantom Men issue, even though you can't read a word of them, he got them all there. I go, oh, wow.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
You have joined exclusive company by being a Phantom artist and a Phantom cover artist, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, it makes me feel good. My ego's getting bigger, I can tell you.
All right, I know
love doing
Jerm's
them, so
chomping
there
at the
you
bit
go.
to get to the Giantsize, though, so I should let him head down that track.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick. So, let's just want to focus a little bit on your Giantsize. So there's been 4 stories that you've done, well, 4 mini stories, I guess you can call them. There's 2 set of Falcons, one in Giantsize 1 and in Giantsize 3. There's a Phantom Ranger and a Planet Man in Giantsize 4. Now, the thing that I like about these is that, well, for me, this is just my personal opinion. I've probably had more of an appreciation of these non-Phantom characters because of your stories, in the sense that you you tie the characters with the Phantom sort of in a way where, you know, there's that kind of relationship and there's that uniqueness, and you're not really sure what's going on and stuff like that. So for me, I think I've got more of an appreciation of these, and personally, I actually turn to your stories in the Giantsize first before I read anything else, and that's not just me saying it as well. So that's.
Well, my ego was getting big before. It's getting bigger now.
So these.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, these Giantsize stories, are they your creations? Are these just your brainchild, or could you tell us?
They've been an absolute joy to do because Glenn, I don't really have much to do with Dudley on these, and I don't know what his involvement is in them. It seems to be Glenn's baby. Glenn's given me absolute freedom on them, and I've been really surprised. The idea of connecting all these guys with the Phantom is 100% Glenn's idea. He wants to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons the second Sir Falcon was in Giantsize 2 and not, Giantsize 3 and not Giantsize 2 was when I did the first Sir Falcon one, which put the Phantom and Sir Falcon in the same little world there, he really wasn't 100% convinced that King Features would be happy with it.
Yeah.
They didn't really know. See, even that one was done on a lark. I did it. I didn't know it was ever going to be published. When it was sort of, I heard the idea of Frew going back to the Giantsizes, and I can't quite remember the timeline here, but I found that I actually had an old Sir Falcon issue, which is as old as me. It's a 1957 issue. And I remember picking it out of my box of Phantoms. I said, where the heck did this come from? I had no memory of it, didn't know I had it, and I'd probably chucked it in there thinking it's rubbish, because when you read them, yeah, they're not great. I didn't mind the look of the guy. In fact, that's what sold me on him. I think I actually liked drawing him. And but when I read it, I could not believe. I had no memory of it. As a kid, I remember seeing the Shadow and the Phantom Ranger. They were everywhere in second-hand bookshops, and I loathed them. As a kid, I was a Marvel zombie, although I did like the Phantom himself, but I thought these were just horrible. These Australian, I had no appreciation for them at all. Unlike Glenn, who has wonderful memories, and a lot of people do. They like them a lot. I didn't, and probably because they didn't look like Jack Kirby at all. And I read this Sir Falcon, and I was absolutely stunned that he was such a blatant copy of the Phantom. I couldn't believe it. And what always happens in even down to the dog called Flash. Yeah. You're kidding me. Anyway, I'm surprised he didn't ride a horse. He drove a Jeep in the story I've got. But but it occurred to me, if you want to put all these things in the same universe, like Glenn was talking about, it just went into my head to let's acknowledge the similarities, but without trashing it, so that those who think it's stupid can have a good laugh. Those that like them can know it's been acknowledged and let it go at that. That's what I did with that story, and with the letter, and it was, bringing in Jimmy Wells was just a little thing I did later, and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted just to acknowledge it and almost poke fun at it without obviously trashing it, and I told, I can't remember quite what it was, but I told Glenn that I'd done this thing and he wanted to see it, and he said, we're going to publish it. And I'm thinking, what? And I had no idea where. This must have been pre-Giantsize Phantom days, because I didn't know that it was going to exist. I thought it might be in the back of a Phantom, one of those, 5-page things or something where Heart of Darkness goes and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I deliberately said, or worked it out for myself, that I was going to try to do the flashback, or the bit that Diana read, in a Ray Moore type style with lots of greys and little detail. And I'd do the Phantom as in my best Cy Barry impersonation, and Diana would be the beautiful Will McCoy version. So I drew it up for fun, and he decided to publish it, and I was stunned.
Ah.
I was absolutely stunned. I thought, oh, wow.
But it certainly
So,
sets you on
and
a
there you
path
go.
now, hasn't it, with the way that you've been doing the other ones?
Well, it was brilliant. And when I sent him the story, it was only at the last minute that I put that bit at the end about the Phantom going, what's this? You know, and he said, do you have a story to follow this up? And I said, no, in an email. 2 days later, I wrote back and said, yes, because it gets the brain ticking over. And I thought of a rough version of what the story in 3 turned out like. When it came out, I'll just say, I was a little bit annoyed that in Giantsize 1, they didn't have Sir Falcon #1, because I thought if you didn't know Sir Falcon was a total rip-off the Phantom, that little story of mine wouldn't make sense. You know, and I was thought, it should follow a real one, so it's sort of a bit of a commentary on what you just read. Hopefully now everyone gets it. Everyone who doesn't know anything about Sir Falcon would get it by now. But at the time, I thought, it sort of undercuts the point by not having it there. So anyway, there you go. So I worked out this second. Yeah.
I was just going to ask which of those have been your favourite, or can I assume you're doing Catman for the next Giantsize, or where are you going with these?
Well, it depends on what else Frew's got for me to do. I've got a number of stories in the works. Like I like doing, I think it's what Jermaine's getting at, leaving things up in the air. I like stories that have just enough dangling to let you know that there's more. It doesn't tie everything neatly. If it's all tied up neatly, bang, that's the end. But if you've got something where the main story plot is resolved, but there's something hanging, I really like that. And at the end of the second Sir Falcon, like I did that with the baddies sitting there, almost vowing revenge type thing, he got wounded and he said, I'm not going to forget this. And you think, well, is there more with this Kane character? And I have a loose story worked out, which does follow it up. There's more with Scorpia, and it also brings in the Shadow and the Catman and the Phantom and him. And it's a big story. It's pretty long, actually. I don't know how we do it. But it sort of does that. And I've worked out how Sir Falcon's origin is so much like the Phantom's. I've got a story with that, and I think it's nice and logical. It's simple. It makes sense. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but but I'd love to be able to do it sometime, and it would fit nicely in there. So I've got that story brewing. It's there. Glenn hasn't said anything about whether he'd like to use it or not yet, but then it gets lost in the confusion because I've also got a Phantom. There's a story with Catman coming up, one which I've seen, which hasn't been reprinted yet, which is all about an invasion of the world that Catman solves. And just thinking, well, what was the Phantom doing while this was happening? And I've got a story which is sort of off to the side again, where the Phantom does his bit. And so I've got.
Have you had to do a lot of rereading of? You just saw that you said that you've seen an old Catman. Have you had to do a lot of rereading of all of these old comics to get yourself up to speed and into their universes?
No, I'm actually winging it a bit. I am, because I haven't seen much at all. And every time a new Giantsize comes out, I go, oh, Captain Strato, who's that? I've never heard of him, like the ones they just put in the new Giantsize. And my brain ticks over and I think, but the thing is with a lot of these guys, they didn't have any character to them. And so really, if you give them some, you're not transgressing anything. With Planet Man, I've got to tell you, this Planet Man was another one that I did not think Frew were going to publish. But when there's one story on the net somewhere, and I thought his little alien offsider, I thought it was a girl. Because it got this bobbed haircut and little dress, and I thought, I was running around a little girl. And then after a while, someone said he's a boy. If not for that, I wouldn't have known. So I would have got it wrong. I could have done this whole story, submitted to Frew, and he says, hey, it's a boy, not a girl. I don't know.
That would have been rebooted for 2018.
It would have been, it said he beat Doctor Who to it. Yeah, so I don't know anything about Planet Man, really. In that last one, there's a point, when Planet Man's fighting that three-headed dragon thing, how he flies. And I suddenly, when I was looking back at it, I'd drawn it, I looked back and said, I'm just assuming he can fly. I don't know if he can. He might be like Flash Gordon that can't. So I put in a dialogue thing here about the rocket belt. I have no idea whether he ever flew in a story. but I sort of took it for granted and probably Jack Kirby-ized him a bit and just did what I wanted. And I thought, I don't know if I've done the right thing here. I don't know if Little Hex was the smarty pants brains behind them, which I sort of did in that story. I don't know. I don't know if the stories were consistent enough to for anyone to know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I'm winging it with these people,
So-
and
but you're not-
trying to give them a bit of character, but I don't know them very
You
well
just
at all.
burst the myth. Seriously, I thought you were a huge Giantsize fan, knew about all these Australian characters, and you were like the guru.
Nah, sorry. I probably know less about them than you guys.
Oh, I don't know about that. I've never met them before because I'm not a big enough collector or deep enough pockets to be buying the original Giant Sizes and reading them. Are you getting complaints from the first generation of Giant Size Phantom fans? It doesn't sound like it.
I think Dudley and Glenn must be shielding me from them if they are. I haven't heard anything yet. No,
Well, Glenn's probably the
no one said.
biggest fan out there, so if he's not complaining, then you're probably doing okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'll take it at that because I know he knows far more than I do, and he knows all these characters I've never even heard of. So really, no, I'm sorry to burst the myth.
Well, it has. It's totally burst the myth that I had of you. You've just shattered my world, Shane.
Well, I do know a bit about the Wilson McCoy Phantom, as you can tell from my summers, but I know a bit about him. So that's
So
I think we can tell that because you've got the Diamond Cup story in the Sir Falcon. You've got the Lady Luck, Penny, I think her name was. You've got the Scorpia, Peggy. Yep. You've got Scorpia, which is also in Giant Size 3. It was like a treasure trove reading that story. It was just like it was so
Barragar.
cool. Yeah.
Gar from Barragar, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the Hornstar Demons from what do you call it? Giant Size 4, and like that was the story that I thought they were actually going to put in instead of the Cybari one, but I guess
the Cybari one kills two birds with one stone because it has the Hornstar Demons to begin with, and then goes into its other story.
Except they're not Hornstar.
No.
Totally redraws them and gives them three eyes instead.
Yeah. So you can. I think it's safe to say that you are a bit of a Wilson McCoy fan.
Well, I started with him, and I always thought that he had the best Diana. I think Raymore and Cybari cannot compete. His Diana's just gorgeous, and I love the women that he does. Like even the Lady Luck, the captain with the long, beautiful hair, all that sort of stuff. And then there's the princess or the queen of Bengali or something in the Crescent cult. Yes, all those women. Or there's the one where the ring gets lost, and at the end, the dishwasher lady marries a prince, and I think, she's just beautiful, and I just fell in love with her as a kid. And I still think Wilson McCoy is just stunningly good at doing that. So even though the hairstyles are way out of date and that sort of thing, I just think he knows how to draw such a beautiful face and form. I just think she's just wonderful. In one sense, I really, really love the early Cybari time because it seemed to me as if Lee Falk changed his direction once Barry came on. You get the Island of Dogs and you get the Drummer of Timpani, and they are just cracker stories. I just love them, and it seemed like he made the Phantom a bit more serious again, as if it was getting a bit whimsical towards the end of Wilson McCoy's thing, and it didn't last. I mean, there's a lot of the later ones where suddenly the Phantom's riding in the backs of dolphins and has Neanderthal men and dinosaurs. I can't. I'm a bit of a heretic there. I don't really like it. But it seems as if he got really tough at the beginning of the Cybari era and was a bit more reminiscent of what he was in the early Ray Moore period, and which to me was the Ray Moore period was an acquired taste as I got older. I really didn't like it. It was, As a kid, I didn't like it at all.
Sounds like a hardcore Falkist. It's good to hear.
I'll call him a McCoyist. He's almost in the same reign as some of the other guests we've had who for them the Phantom died when Cybari took over.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. No, I thought he came alive at the beginning.
That was extreme.
He died once.
Yeah.
But I reckon he died once you start having Whispering Groves and the Kilauea where everyone rolls in the golden stuff and there's a Phantom Peak and added all these things. I didn't like a lot of those. It doesn't mean all his stories are bad, but I thought they added a lot to the lore, which to me took away from the Mystery Man. It got too
Family focus.
I don't know, cutesy or whatever. But I agree with others that say the Wilson McCoy Phantom wasn't. Cyberry made him a big guy again. Like Ray Moore's Phantom was like a big swimmer, big shoulders and that sort of stuff. Wilson McCoy's got smaller and all that, whereas Cyberry put him back there. But but I love Wilson McCoy's stories like The Devil Road and that. He was drawing really quickly, and the art's quite sloppy, but a lot of atmosphere in there. I love Devil Road and Queen Sansamore and The Sixth Man and stuff like that. They're good.
So I'm getting the sense that you'd actually like to work with the Phantom as a character rather than all of these other Australian comic characters from history.
I'm going to say no, because the Phantom has been done really, really well at times, and then since I started reading more, since I started doing covers, I've really got into some of the European stuff, and there's some great things in there, like that I didn't know existed, and they've taken the Phantom to some of the historical ones are superb, and then there were stories that are only released in the last, probably over a year ago now, but, like the background to Bababu, when he was a kid, there was a story about that, how he was brought up. That is really, really good. And then there was the year just gone, there was a 3-parter about the twins with the Phantom having disappeared, like the 22nd Phantom or something. And that is really cracker stuff. And I like Dodai Singh and what's her name? Sandal Singh. And I'm not sure I'm fussed on the idea of the Phantom fathering a child by her, but it's really, there's something bubbling away there which is really, really good. And I don't like having to wait so long between episodes.
So now you're speaking like a postmodernist. It's hard to pin you down, Shane.
I refuse to be pinned down.
Well, no.
Because there's no such thing as a forkist, I don't think. Like, which fork you're talking about? There's the early Ray Moore fork, then there's the later Ray Moore fork, which I thought wasn't as good. Then there's some Wilson McCoy stuff, which is great. Then there's the Wilson McCoy stuff. Then there's the early Cy Barry, I thought was brilliant. Then there's the later ones where I thought most stories that I've seen are really quite weak, and the Phantom's always happy and smiling, and he just is not the guy from the Ray Moore era, and I found them difficult to like. But then you get the stories written by Tony DePaul. A lot of those are just fabulous. And then Norman Walker and what's the Ray Army? What's the other Ray? Yeah. So a lot of his stuff is really, really good, and they've done a lot with the historical band. So there's bits and pieces all over the place that I really, really like.
So he's a postmodernist. We're going to label you, Shane, as a postmodernist. A postmodernist.
Off you go.
Postmodernist
but
is someone
to get back
who
to
appreciates everything of the Phantom, appreciates the classic fork, but also realises there's a place for the post stuff, like for the stuff that Frew's creating, the stuff that Egmont are creating, where the Forkists are just stuck in their own little fork world.
As long as the modern ones don't have the Phantom always gritting his teeth, being angry and sort of angsty and wanting revenge, that sort of stuff. And I like a lot of other people, I didn't like that 2-part one that came out early last year. The one that was what was it called? 2-part thing, great big panels. I thought the artwork was really sloppy, and he was angry, and I think that was it. To me, that's
the Moonstone one.
The Phantom's character in a lot of those, I think, is wrong. And I mean, a lot of you can update a guy without going that far. I wasn't fussed on that at all. And I thought one of the things I didn't like about it, I thought story-wise, he had barely one issue in those 2 issues. You could have, but it seemed like great big sloppy panels, but I wasn't fussed on the story either, I don't think. Maybe I'll have to read it again. I might like it better the second time. But
if it's one
hey, before you go on with that,
I didn't feel like reading it a second time, to be honest.
Right. Before you go on with that, you said I feel like doing Phantom stories. Maybe I would, but actually I would love it if I could do more Sir Falcon, because the Phantom has been done really well on so many occasions, and I don't feel like it'd add much to that. I'd probably maybe do a good story or something, but Sir Falcon is a blank slate, I think, and I'd love to do a bit more with him, teaming up with the Phantom just occasionally, or the new story I have, it sort of has him and the Shadow as sort of wary mates well before the Phantom's even involved in the story. Not mates, but they sort of respect each other and work together from a distance, and I'd really like to do something with him and resolve his past and even update him. Glenn's interested in giving modern versions of all these guys, and I've sort of submitted to him an updated version of Sir Falcon, and we'll see where we go with that. But, that one's sort of, in one sense, easier because you're free to do what you like with your brain. With the Phantom, there's a heck of a lot of history to take notice of, and some of it's probably incompatible, so I don't know. But,
and then you have people doing podcasts like us that will critique everything as well.
Oh, well, that's probably healthy then, isn't it? I don't know.
Oh, you should hear what the people over at the Sir Falcon podcast are saying.
They won't like me. They'll say, he don't know what he's talking about. That'll be right.
Now,
so you sound a bit like a writer as well. Like just like hearing you like talk about how you come up with the ideas. And all that. You sound.
I like doing that.
So do you write a script for yourself, or do you sort of write it and doodle it as you go?
No, usually I whack out a story, just write the thing, and when I'm drawing it and putting the word balloons in, I always re-script as I go.
Sure.
Just to see how it's paced. But I get an idea and write it down first. I'm not like Jack Kirby who starts drawing and see what happens. I can't do that. But I like to get an idea first. But I love plotting my own stuff and getting it going. I'm going to be working with another writer soon on the Frew's 70th thing, but I will have a story given to me for that. But the other ones are ones that I've got bubbling in the background, and so far a lot of them are just short, like in the Giantsizes, because of time constraints. Like the Falcon one, the first Falcon one, like I said, was done. That was done for my own fun, and I was delighted that Glenn decided he wanted to publish it. And then I've worked out the second Falcon story, but then because of the delay, waiting to see if King Features were happy to have the Phantom and this other one together, there was no lead time, not enough time for me to draw that, 22 pages or something, that second Sir Falcon story. So I did that Phantom Ranger one really quickly, and that was just to get something in there. And then got the Falcon one done, and then the Planet Man one, that was sort of done. I drew it on photocopy paper. I was so confident it was going to get published. It's not even done on proper artboard. It's just done there, and I was really surprised, and then I had no idea that other guys were doing an updated version of Planet Man. It's advertised on the back.
Yeah.
And Glenn said, "No, I want yours. We're going to put it in first." I'm going, "Really?" So okay, happy as Larry. So, and of course, it just, the idea of putting the Hornstar Demons popped in really fast. I mean, I know that Cy Barry he drew an alien one, the Blue Giant or something, didn't he? But I don't know that one really nearly as well. And to me, that hasn't got the oomph in the graphics as these Hornstar guys. I mean, my favourite line in that is, "Oh, look, was it Roman Viking Genghis Khan?" Alien. I thought that was funny. It made me laugh. My own line made me laugh. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
So
I love writing my own stuff, but happy to work with someone else too.
But you'll be looking forward to reading the next Giantsize and the Planet Man then to see whether or not he can fly.
Yeah. Well, he's new, so of course he's better. He can probably teleport too. Yeah.
So now you've teased us a little bit.
Yes.
You've teased us with a few little words of like Frew 70th.
There's some interesting stuff there. Yes.
Yeah. So
I only said that because you've already told me you know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was
Jermaine,
making
let
it
it
sound
drop
like we
that you
didn't
knew.
know that, and we were like, the podcast people that were listening to us. So yeah, so
Oh, you better edit it out then.
nah, it's all right. They'll figure it out. So could you tell us now? We have got permission as well by Frew to talk about it as well, which we've discussed. So could you tell us a little bit about what you know that Frew are going to do for their 70th?
You tell me what you know first.
I was giving you the opportunity to break it.
Oh, I don't want to get in trouble with these guys, They're giving me work.
All right.
Well, how about I have a guess?
Okay.
Go on.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
Glenn has and Dudley together have filled us in on a few little things, and so our understanding is that for the 70th anniversary, which will be in September, would be the 70th anniversary of the very first ever Frew. There's going to be a trade paperback which will feature a number of stories. We don't know how many. A number of stories from some of the classic old Lee Falk stories with the three artists that we've talked a lot about today, Moore and McCoy and Barry, all represented, but they'll be added to by various artists, and we think that you're one, Shane, who is going to be drawing a sequel to those stories as they are published, and the whole thing will be in the same quality as the previous trade paperback in colour and good glossy pages and that sort of thing. Is that close?
Oh, you know as much as I do. All I know is that just to fine tune it just a little, you get the three stories which haven't been in print for about 20 years, one from each artist, and there will be an Australian produced sequel to each of them.
Excellent.
Right, and I've been asked to do the sequel to the Wilson McCoy one, so that fits in with what you thought of me. But I'm not writing it. Another writer is going to do it.
Okay.
So and it's a decent length. It's going to be a reasonable book because I've been told it could be up to 30 pages long.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
So do you know who the writer is?
No. I think you might have told me the name. It's not one I'm familiar with. Hey?
Is it Piddle Anderson or Andreas Eriksson or Chris Secure?
No, Chris's name wasn't mentioned. The other ones I really can't remember. I don't know.
Okay. Do you know
he mentioned Andrew Constant at one stage, but it's not.
Yep.
Andrew's doing something else, I think. I really don't know.
I know.
I have a story from Andrew Constant to do too, but that one doesn't fit yet.
Oh, do you?
Sorry?
Okay.
Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry, Shane?
I said I have a story here from Andrew Constant too to do up, but it won't fit into the plans just yet because it can't be in that one because the story has been reprinted. The story it's based on has been reprinted in the last 20 years, and they wanted to make sure they weren't doing that. So I got another one here, and it's a 30-page thing, and Andrew does a great script. He's easy to follow, and I think, I can draw this. So that one's sitting there as well. So I've got a number sitting here waiting for the time to do them.
And that's a pure Phantom story?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Are you able to tell us the sequel for that one?
I'll let Andrew tell you that.
All right. Well, I'll get in touch with Andrew.
So are you able to tell us the sequel for the story for the Frew 80th?
No, I don't know that yet.
Okay, yep.
I don't know that yet. No, Glenn has to go through and find out which ones it is, and he said it's a nightmare. Got to find out a story that won't be produced soon in the replicas, and it hasn't been produced in the last little while or something, so he's got to find that out. The writer might know, but I've just said, I've agreed to do that, and by happy coincidence, I got called into the office of the officer in charge at work a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Hey, you need to take more holidays." I'm going, "What?" So I've deliberately put it in July so that I can draw my little heart out for this story.
You've got time to draw.
And you also need middle of June as well for Supernova as well.
I've already got holidays for that. I'll be there.
Yep, that's good. Yeah. You'll be there as well.
Yeah. You're coming again? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Good.
Yep.
Good. Yep.
So, we do know that Chris Secure is writing one of the stories. We know that Massimo, who did the Christmas cover, is also doing one of the stories. We've got Shane Foley, and then I don't know about a third artist yet. So all that information will be on the website like per normal. But yeah, thanks for telling us about that, Shane. That sounds like a great idea.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. So, like, and I know you don't know the story, but is there like a story that you would love to do a sequel to? And obviously it's going to be a Wilson McCoy one, which you have a close.
No, I mean Wilson. I could do a follow up to the Drummer of Timpani. I love that. Actually, I mean it's the Siberia one. I think that's terrific. I would rather do probably Wilson McCoy because I like the way he did his caricatured baddies. In my opinion, his baddies often were.
Big and ugly.
I like them more. That Cy Barry did a more photographic type approach, and except for Bababu and except for the Drummer of Timpani when he was still a bit more caricatured, a bit like McCoy was. And I prefer that slightly caricatured approach. I loved drawing the Horn Starding. That was just great. And I had that, it was very brushy and their faces were sort of, a bit nastily Asian, I suppose. But they were great fun to draw. And they even got a Jack Kirby machine in there, which I was very happy with. But, yeah, I'd probably do a McCoy story. I don't know. No, I can't think. Probably as soon as I hang up the phone, I'll say, oh, yeah, obviously that one. So, I don't know.
Do you think that when you do find out what the story is, and obviously you'll get a script, but is it something that you think you'll go straight back and dig up a copy of the old story, and then you're going to have to try and channel that style as much as possible? Or
I would say so. It's going to be Wilson McCoy, and I'll try to be as Wilson McCoyish as I can, which means I'll probably ink most with a brush and keep it sort of simple. I'm hoping that the story isn't one that demands 12 panels a page, because it's going to be a long story. I'd like to do maybe make it look like a Sunday strip, which are more like 6 and 7 panels a page. Even 7's a lot, but they always add 7, 3 along the bottom and that sort of thing with their regular style. But yeah, I will try and do that one in a real Wilson McCoy simple style, which I don't know. I try to keep it in the vein of what's there, but at the same time, when you're trying to draw like somebody else, it gets very tiring after a while, and you actually fail. Like when you're looking at the way Wilson McCoy, sometimes you can't tell when it's him and Ray Moore way back. It's a bit hard to tell, but it doesn't take long, and Wilson McCoy is suddenly Wilson McCoy. You can't keep channeling the other guy forever. And it's difficult. And even such a stylized guy as Jack Kirby, I'd try and draw it, but after a while, it's obviously Shane Foley version of Jack Kirby. It's not Jack Kirby, and I don't try it too hard. I don't try to do that sort of. So I'll try to keep the spirit of it, but I'm not gonna try too hard. And then of course I didn't do that with the last Sir Falconer. I was actually been looking over some Barry Windsor Smith stuff, so you got that heavy-handed inking I did on it, and it's a bit too heavy actually. But and then for the Planet Man one, I sort of started in real simple. I even started drawing it as if it was a Bruce Timm, type cartoony looking thing, even though it didn't end up quite there. But yeah, I'll try and channel McCoy for this, because that's the purpose of it for the book. It's a sequel to one, so I will do my best to do that.
I think
what I do in the future, I know.
Yeah, that sounds like the right approach to me, who knows absolutely nothing about anything, to be honest. But, if you're saying things like the Wilson McCoy spirit and you're channeling it and that sort of thing, I mean, people are going to understand. No one's looking for Wilson McCoy to raise from the grave and start drawing again. It's it's an updated version. It's your version.
Character.
Yeah, I will. Like, the Phantom will still be taller than Wilson McCoy drew him. I'm not going to change that.
So you can wear some stiletto boots.
Often it's more to do with the backgrounds. Like in the first surf, how the backgrounds were really, really. I had to work hard not to put them in, and leave it for the tones. Because often in my ink art, all those grey tones are not there. They're added in Photoshop. So I'd just draw and then put in stuff with the grey tone. And it's hard not to when you're used to drawing a lot, but it actually works well. I was really happy with it and thought, I might do this more often. But then when I got to the second Sir Falcon story, the part of the Stolen Chronicle, I was rendering everything, and it was almost a bit over the top. So I'll try and keep it nice and simple for the Wilson McCoy one, but do it in his. And even then, I'll have to look at, do you do them like we're in the Devil Road story, where it's very, very brushy and quick, or do you do it like, well, the one I always think of is the Sunday Story of the Belt. That's got all that double rainbow, fine line clouds, and he was really, really putting detail in there. So, I don't know.
So it'll depend on the story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other one that reminds me of the real detail is the Flirtatious Princess. Do you remember that one?
Yes. That's one that had a daily and a Sunday version, isn't it?
Yes.
And so even the Thuggies was about the same period. Yep. I remember you and I talked before. I remember we had a letter about this. I'm convinced that they would do their 6 days, Monday to Saturday, then Sunday, recap those days, added a new plot element.
Yes.
And then Monday continued, and I know Barry Stubblesfield disagrees, doesn't he? But I think...
Me and him had well, it didn't start off as a stoush, but I think Dudley played it up a little bit. Like, I just said to Dudley, I'm not really sure about how he's got that. And then all of a sudden he's published what I said and then gone back to Barry for a response and then published that as well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm trying to pick a fight with Barry Stubblesfield.
Oh. Because he published a letter of mine about it. And was that coming in after all your little stouts? And you wrote to me and said, I agree with you or something. I remember you doing that. Because I read Barry's comments and started one of the replicas. And he said, it's strange that this part wasn't included, and in the Australian version they had to take a bit out of the Sunday one and put it in to make sense. And I'm thinking, Neil, to my mind, the whole thing's meant to do that. And you're not meant to read them separate, but he disagrees. So there's about 4 stories like that, as if King tried it that way to see if they could make it one. Thuggies is one, the Flirtatious Princess is one. There's 2 others. I don't know.
Thuggies. Is there 4? Give me.
I think there's 4 stories where they're concurrent. Sunday and daily are the same.
Well, Herms printed them like that as well. I don't know if you've seen what Herms has done, but Herms.
Dan Herman in the video that he just this week has made a point of saying that they basically, I think it was 1949 through to early 1950, there was 4 stories that were printed exactly like you're saying, and so when they did the high quality reprints that they do, they actually put them together, whereas they've been for the most part dailies in one book and Sundays in another for that period of time to come together, and the latest Sundays is after that period and on its own continuity again.
To me, it must read like that because the story is so abbreviated in the start of those Sundays, and it's just recapping the week. And sometimes they add a new plot element, sometimes they don't, and that's probably why Barry thinks they're independent. But I think there's a couple of points like that one where the Phantom saves Diana from that Carly idol thing. If you just read the dailies, he doesn't save her. So
it was.
How did we get to that? Oh, you were talking about Wilson McCoy's art style.
It was.
that was a rabbit hole.
So it was 4 stories. You're correct. It was Father and Sons.
I was going to say.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
The Flirtatious Princess.
Yep.
Which is the one that that's one of my favourite Wilson McCoy stories. The Thuggies.
And the Ape Idol of
the Jarago.
Is that how you say it? Okay.
Don't listen to Jermaine for pronunciation advice.
Yeah, don't listen to me.
Duragu. I don't know.
But what's actually interesting is that in the 70s, you have the Wedding of the Phantom, the 3 Bandits, and the Heirs that also ran as dailies and Sundays, but they were actually separate.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, like you say, with the 4 in the 4 stories, which was in the 50s or 40s and the late 40s.
Okay.
You're right. The stories actually flow like that, like that. So,
Yeah.
So sorry, Barry. We're picking a fight with you again.
No, we're not. That's just the way it seems to me. Could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
He's the historian. The man, what that guy knows is incredible. I think, how do you know all that? But, yeah.
Very, very good record.
Everyone can be wrong occasionally.
So back to Shane, back to your artwork and that sort of thing. I was lucky enough to get a Frew sketch cover drawn by yourself at Supernova last year, which is beautiful.
Right.
I really, really like that. Do you accept commissions if people were to drop you an email or give you a call?
Yeah, I've done half a dozen or so.
Yep.
By all means. Yeah. You can just do it by messenger or whatever.
Oh yeah. So I guess
think that's how some people do.
that's probably the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to do that through Facebook and then Messenger.
Certainly. I've got my own. The ShaneFoley.net is my website. I'm woeful in keeping it updated, but there's a contact thing there. If you go through there, you'll get an email to me. But
Okay.
yeah.
There's a. I'm just
Probably don't
looking at
expect anything by June because I'm going
No,
through life.
sounds like you've got some other stuff on your plate.
Yeah, I've got a couple of exhibitions I've got to get ready by June as well.
Right. Okay.
So I'm
There's
getting up
a,
at 5 every morning before I go to work and drawing a little harder.
There's another one in there which has got the Phantom at the top, Devil in the middle, with the skull thrown underneath the Phantom, and then it's got Catman, the Shadow to the left, the Phantom Ranger down the bottom with a guy in a shadow cape, and then you've got Seth Falcon, and then you've got a little girl in the bottom right as well. So is that a cover or another back cover for
Where's this? What are you talking about?
on your website?
Sorry?
On your website.
Shane's
website.
gone. Germ's gone to ShaneFoley.net.
Did I put that there? That's the Phantom with the big devil, and there's the heads of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that got the Kane character out of Sir Falcon in it? Is he there or not?
Is it a guy with like a cape and like a really
The
dark?
black cape and
Yeah.
That was done. At one stage, because the follow-up to the first Sir Falcon story was not going to be in Giantsize 2, I volunteered to do a one-page ad for it.
Oh, okay.
And that's it, I think. I'd have to look at my website to see what it is. There's two versions of that. I can't remember. Hang on. I'm sitting in front of my computer here. I can go and have a look.
It does. It would
and
make
it
a cool
wasn't
ad
used
for
at all.
Giantsize. That's a.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, it's got Catman and the Shadow. Oh, that was a cover. Oh, yeah, the lady at the right, that's Prince Gar's wife, King Gar, out of the second story. And the guy in black, that's, without the hat, that's the way Kane was at the start of the story. So we got the Falcon and the Phantom. And, I think it was meant to be like a thing I offered. I did up a little ad thing for Frew, and then they didn't use it, and because it probably was based on. But I thought when I looked at it again, I thought, no wonder they didn't use it. It's terrible. So I just did this up, which is a different version of it, and obviously it didn't have space, and they didn't use it. And but I put it here. So there you go. So that wouldn't be much of one to buy because that would be the Phantom Ranger, the Catman, and the Shadow would be original art, but the rest of it would be a photocopy. I think I've reworked a different version. I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and have a look. I forgot all about that picture, actually. There you go. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for reminding me about it.
No worries. Yeah, cool.
How does it strike you, Shane? You've said that you're 60. You've had a full career, doing stuff that I could never even imagine doing. Being a paramedic is one of the heroes on the road as far as I'm concerned. And you've spent your
Well,
life.
burnt me out.
Yeah, I could only begin to imagine. You're now at a stage where they're coming to you and saying you need to take holidays. I suppose at that age, I'd love to be retiring. You've got that in the near or middle distant future,
Yeah.
I suppose. How do you feel about this period of comic book drawing and cover art and that sort of thing, sort of almost taking off at this time of your life?
Yeah, well, it's odd, isn't it? Like I sort of wanted this to be a career all my life, and it hasn't happened. And I've used my art a lot all through my life for various things, done a lot of advertising, done a few comics here and there, done a lot in the church I go to, things like that, done a lot of it. But having it come now, it's just fantastic. It's coming at exactly the same time as I'm finally doing some exhibitions, which I've never done, but my wife sort of opened the channels for that. And in my exhibitions, like some of them I'm doing Phantom stuff. The new one I'm getting ready will have the Phantom cover you haven't seen yet. The original art for that will be one of the things on the wall. They want comic art, and I do even canvases, which are done in black and white like comic stuff, dragons and all sorts of things, a lot of science fiction-y sort of stuff, alongside Ned Kelly and things like that, all done in the comic book style. So I'm happy as Larry to be doing it now, and really to be doing what I'm doing for Frew is marvellous. The freedom I've been given every time they've sent me a story, it's been with like often it's in Swedish, but every time I send them a layout for a cover, they say, that's great, go with it. So it seems like I'm in tune with what they want, and they keep coming back to me for more. So I'm happy as Larry. It's not like at Marvel Comics or something trying to be in a new style you don't like. And everything a lot of what I've given them so far as I'm aware, they're very happy with it because they keep coming back. So I don't care if retirement's coming. I'm as happy as Larry.
Very good way to pick up a bit of extra spending cash while you're in retirement anyway.
Oh, it is. It's hard work, but it's hard work that I really enjoy. And I've got to get up. I get up at 5:30 in the morning and draw before I go to work. So when I go to work, I've already had a fulfilling day.
Oh, that's awesome.
got to go to bed early to be able to do it. But that's when I'll get it done. So I'm really enjoying the time there. And if it stops now, I'm really happy with what's happened. But it doesn't seem like it is at the moment. So good. Yeah.
Sounds like you've got a lot more in you to do as well.
Yep. I think there is. I hope so.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing it.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the interview. You're really you're very encouraging. It's very nice.
No worries.
Cool.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you on, and enjoyed learning more about yourself and stuff like that, and learning about the new stuff you're doing as well. It's been great.
Yeah, no, it's been a really enlightening evening, Shane, and I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as well. I'm sure they will have. And personally, I look forward to catching up with you again down at Supernova and maybe getting another sketch cover with maybe Sir Falcon on the front next to the Phantom this time.
Okay, it'll be my pleasure.
All right, good on you, Shane. Thank you very much.
Good on you.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh wow, that time we spent with Shane was pretty. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and once it was one of those where I think before the chat he said, we'll be lucky to talk for 10 minutes, and again we've gone for an hour and a half at least. So it's just amazing how once you start picking an artist's brain, the rabbit holes and that you can disappear down.
Yeah, especially when they're Phantom fans as well, like Shane was. Like we were just rattling off stories and titles and that, and we knew what they were about, and we could have even gone further into rabbit holes talking about each different stories and stuff like that as well. It was very, very enjoyable. Thank you, Shane, for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And really looking forward to this trade paperback. We're going to have to explore that more when we've got Stephen on board, and we're talking about comics and news probably. But I love the sound of this trade paperback that Frew have got brewing. Yeah,
it's a great concept. It is a great concept. In the way I see it is it keeps everyone happy. It means we get more trade paperbacks, which means they're expanding into that industry which they want to do, or that genre. It keeps the forkers happy because you're going to have reprinted stories in colour, glossy paper, and it's going to look amazing. And then the people that, even for the people that don't like that type of stuff, it's probably going to be the first time it's ever been printed like that. So that's a must see. And then, on top of that, you're going to have talented people mimicking, and doing sequels on top of these classic stories that, we probably all like. So, yeah, I'm rather chuffed with it. I'm looking forward to learning more about it, learning about the other artists and the other writers. And yeah, I guess you know us. As soon as we know, we'll let you guys know.
Yep. A lot to explore there, and a lot to be excited about. Yes,
definitely. All right, well, let's finish this off. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Dan, and Stephen, letting the team down again, mate. So, as always, you can find us on ChronicleChamber.com. It's where we post everything on there. And then there's also social media links. So you've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the various other stuff like that. You can always subscribe to us on iTunes and on the Android equivalent apps, where basically you will get the latest podcast downloaded directly onto your device or your computer straight away. You don't have to wait to try and find us or wait to read about it on Facebook. It will download it automatically. And then, as always, a huge shout out to our Patreon listeners. Now, we have been a little bit slacking in failing to give them a shout out. So what we're going to do is we're going to give everyone a shout out. So bear with us for a little bit. This is your moment to shine. So starting up the top, we'll go Brett R. Johnston, thank you. Callum Markham, thank you. Then we also have Jeremy McPherson, who is a huge fan of the show, and we've had him on here and stuff like that.
Cool, very, very cool to have because I know Jeremy's been a Patreon for a long time, and to have someone who's creating Phantom work contribute is just, it's a bit mind-blowing that could go full circle. I love his covers, and apparently he likes our shows, so very nice.
Yes, definitely. Bradley and Joyful Peach, who are friends of pretty much everyone, Phantom. Huge shout out to you guys. Christopher Dunham, Mark Payne, Scott C. Nelson, thank you guys. John Cookson, thank you. Jim Layex, sorry if I butchered your last name.
It's got to be Layu, surely.
Layu, well, he is Canadian, so maybe
Jim
it's
Layu. Yep.
Yeah. All the way from Canada. I think we've got in touch with him when Moonstone was about. That's, I think, when he got hooked on the Phantoms through Moonstone. So
okay.
It's good to see it internationally. Duncan Munro, who's been on here a few times. Sandeep Kate, or Kate Sandeep, thank you. Thomas, I'm going to butcher your last name. Askerd? Askerd, all the way from Norway.
Sorry, Thomas. We've chatted on Facebook before, and I know you're a huge fan from Scandinavia. You probably disagree with most of what I say, but agree with a lot of what Germ says. But we don't know how to say your name. Sorry, mate. But appreciate your patronage very much.
Yes, Sean Bassett, Graham, Luke Berry.
Graham, whoever you are, Graham, we need to know your last name. You're very anonymous to us at the moment, so yeah, get in touch.
Carlton McKenney, or McKenney.
Yep.
And Rick Prom.
Yeah. And I probably spoke over the top of Luke Berry, so just in case he didn't hear, get his name in there as well. Really appreciate the support of all those guys. Vast majority of those Patreon supporters are supporting us at the $5 level or above too, so that means they've got access to the Phantom Preservation Project. I hope that they are enjoying that, and we're going to be making sure that a few new items go up on that on a monthly basis to keep people happy. The Phantom 2040 Series 1 has been very, very popular. Was it Season 1 or 2?
Season 2.
Season 2. My apologies. Got people excited then for no reason. My bad. And also the Friends of the Phantom newsletters have been getting a bit of traction lately, and you can access a wealth of those through the P3 as well. So, appreciate the money being able to come in so that we've got the ability to get the space online to host those for people to access and enjoy.
Yes, And like you said, Dan, we are trying to do something new, or every month, and we are trying to source some more Friends of the Phantoms newsletters, and we are always looking for new stuff. We've got some unique stuff for the next month, including some Defenders of the Earth newspaper strips, which I think will be interest of a few people, and might even be a bit of a podcast discussion about that as well.
We've been chatting over the last little while, and we've probably got at least 3 or 4 months worth of new material to be going up on the Patreon or onto the P3. So I encourage people to keep checking that out. We'll post everything that goes up new. That'll go on the ChronicleChamber.com website as well, so you can keep in touch with what's there and available for you.
That is good. Well, awesome to have everyone here. Thank you for listening to us. Dan, as always.
Happy fandoming, mate.
Happy fandoming.
500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die.
The Phantom.
The ghost who walked.
The Phantom.
Enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds you.